when you're done with that, as you remember from Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, I'd like to start us off with a couple questions. Now, the questions are different this time. And the questions are different because you all, after Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, made the decision to embark on a 6-week process, right? You really decided, okay, I'm going to make this commitment to my financial relationship, my relationship with money. And so it's a bigger commitment, right? A bigger commitment of your time, of your energy than Budgeting Nuts and Bolts was. So it becomes even more important that you know why you're doing this, okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have a notebook for the class, great, but otherwise the workbooks do have note pages in them, because I want you to write your answers to this somewhere where you'll be sure to have those answers with you for class 5 and definitely for class 6, our last class. And these are the 2 questions. What would you most like to accomplish in these 6 weeks? Okay? And what difference would accomplishing that make in your life? Okay? Because we don't just want to know what we want to do, but why do we want to do it? That way, if or when the class maybe gets a little bit frustrating, or you feel stuck, or the assignment feels a little bit grueling, you can connect to why it is that you are doing this and the actual difference that it'll make in your life if you stick to it. So go ahead and take about 4 minutes and write your answers to that question. And so we have, there's a seat up here. Okay, perfect. Sure. Sure. Perfect. Everybody about done? So I'm going to ask you to just take a minute, each person, and go ahead and introduce yourself. This is your class for the next 6 weeks, pretty much. I think we have, who's here from the Tuesday class? Yes, great. Okay, so Mel will be in the Tuesday class, and do we have one other person? Is there no from the Tuesday class? Okay, great. And so you guys know there are 2 classes being taught concurrently, and should you absolutely have a conflict on one day but be able to attend the other one, you're welcome to do that. I ask you let me know if you can, so I make sure that I have stuff for you, but that is an option should you need it. But so this is your class. You get to know each other. This will be, as you guys go on to be graduates, this will be the people you recognize until you come to graduates for a little bit. So maybe Javier, would you kick us off and let us know, why is this thing doing that? Would you let us know, this keeps switching on its own. We have poltergeist. What is your name? What do you do in the world? What would you most like to accomplish, and what difference would that make in your life?
Hello, my name is Javier, as you can read. What I do in the world. I guess artistically, music performer, actor, songwriter, waiter. And what I want to accomplish getting set up financially to make this music project happen. And to get bills paid on time, and just enjoy the travel, see my family in other cities, and I just always be on the edge. Mm-hmm. And that's really,
yeah. So first of all, what do you mean by how did you put it? Getting this thing done financially. Like, what do you mean by that?
Okay. Well, my project is to put out a CD or net. People put CDs out anymore, but put up MP3s online, have that going, sell the songs online, and then tour.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be a tour like just hit little towns. It would be festivals. It would be so I could be able to just jump out of town and then come right back, and pretty much have the whole thing going on online.
Okay.
Which is what's happening. And it's a lot easier than it was 20 years ago. And for me to do that, I have to rent taken care of. I have to have everything taken care of so I can come and go. And I don't have that chip in my brain yet to figure it all out. Okay, this is how much is needed.
Got it.
And since your last class, it's world of difference. I see a lot clearer picture.
Yeah.
A lot clearer picture.
Great. So yeah, it's about getting a clear picture and perhaps a system in place so that you can really figure out what it is you need to be able to do what you want.
And in the past, as an actor, and I had an agent, and they were sending me out, I was going auditions, and I was waiting to be that guy, waiting to be that Hispanic dad, which is
right.
Always. And then I said, okay, that's first of all, it's like the amount of pay in those jobs there wasn't like before. Mm-hmm. So I created a character and wrote some songs, and I have that going. And I realized, okay, this has to go. I can no longer be doing this waiting for audition stuff. So I'm gonna have this going, and this is what forced me to come here, because I want this project to work.
Okay.
Now I'm not gonna be rock star, but I want it to fly. I want it to be all my experience that I've done in the past to make this project work, and it's been going well so far.
Great.
But just to fly and just be no stress and.
Okay, great. So yeah, to build projects, to start businesses, to run production companies, to be artists, we have to figure out our finances. We have to create stability. We have to have systems in place. right? A lot of the times you see people trying to build businesses on very rocky, very sort of sandy foundations, right? And so that's a big part of what this class is about. It's about teaching you and making sure you know what it is you need to do to create that financial foundation, that solid foundation on which you can build businesses, start investing, have families, do whatever the things are that you want to do. We have to have a solid foundation. Great, thank you, Javier. How about Blair?
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to accomplish just really knowing when and when not to sort of invest in things in my career that may not, reward may not return back for years and years. And that's something that I've struggled with, and knowing what I think is worth the right investment for what I have. And then also just not living month to month, sort of like a survival way.
Yeah. And what do you do in the world?
No.
You're an actor. Okay, great. So what difference, I know it feels like you've answered that, but just try and verbalize what difference it would make in your life, figuring that out.
I think allowing a lot of freedom in my life, and I think not letting it like pull me down, just like sort of mentally and emotionally, and letting it be the thing that runs my life. And like I don't want it to run me, I want to run it.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right.
So a lot of, and it seemed to sort of be the factor in every decision made sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want that to be. I want that to be just on the side and already taken care of because there's a plan in place. You know.
Right. Right. No, that makes absolute sense. And what Blair just said is very, very true. If we don't have a plan for our money, other people will have a plan for our money, right? And as entertainment industry professionals, there is an enormous amount of things we can invest in, right? And we have to be able to make those decisions from a place of financial strength, which is, I think, what you're talking about. Like a lot of the times, we keep grabbing at opportunities in the hopes that they will move us forward. But when we do that without a look at our entire financial picture, in many cases, we can't take full advantage of the opportunities that we're grabbing at anyway, right? And so it can start to feel like a pretty vicious cycle. But thanks, Blair. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
How about Rena?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rena. Nice to meet you. Some of you already know me before. I'm an actress, voice actor. I also sing. But, you know, it goes up and down, and I need some, well, I mean, I'm already aware that it's not a steady flow of income as a freelancer, but I would like to accomplish in this class to be able to allocate and manage my money better, and to know how much to invest, how much to save accordingly. Did I write? Yeah, and also wrote, like you said, being in control of money instead of money controlling me, because that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so from last class, you mentioned that, you know, it's good to use money in things that matters to you.
Yes.
So, and that's very, you know, that's very great thing. So, yeah, that's what I wrote.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Rena. And Alicia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alicia. I think, I'm an actor. Sorry. And I think I would just like to have, like, not only transparency with how much I'm spending and what I'm spending it on and what's for my career and what's for my personal life. I think it's kind of hard sometimes to have, like, separate the two. Like, am I just, like, are these clothes for my real life, or are they for my career, or all of that. And so just like more transparency with that, which I think will allow more freedom. And also we're getting married in May.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. So I think just it's a little scary to like blend finances and lives and all of that. And so I think just for both of us to have a better understanding of what it looks like as actors and just as people who want to have a family eventually and all of that, to kind of put a system in place for that, I think will offer that freedom to us and to our relationship too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's hugely powerful. I'm so glad that you guys opted to do this together. I think that we don't all have to think the same way about money, and it's very rare that two friends, let alone two partners, like actually think and believe the exact same things about money. But in a partnership, we absolutely have to have a system. Like all of us, individuals and partners, we have to have money rules. And I know that that can sound sort of like rules, but what it does is it actually brings stability, right? When you have rules about how do you make financial decisions, how do you track your money, how much are you able to spend on something that wasn't actively planned for? How are you forecasting, actually planning your spending every month? What are you willing to loan to family, to friends, right? All of these things are things we have to examine and actually have rules about, have answers about. And so I think it's so valuable for you guys to now have a shared conversation, a way that you can communicate where you're both talking about the same thing, even if you have different ideas about it. And what Alicia said also about the separation between business and personal is so critical, guys. Like, we are all business people. We are not our business, right? Like, that's the mistake that many of us make, is that it's just one. And so everything is very, very blurred. And that translates into extremely blurred finances. And as we talked about in Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, think of any quote-unquote real company, right? You would expect whoever was running that company, if that company was going to be successful, you would expect that their personal lives would not be enmeshed in the business finances. Would you agree? Right? If you came to look at a company that I owned because you were thinking about investing in it, and you found that right there next to the office computers that I ordered for the business was also the last manicure that I got and a little holiday that I took my family on over spring break, would you invest in that business? You wouldn't. But yet, how many of us, that's how we are currently running our businesses, right? So why? That's something that we really have to look at and that we're absolutely going to cover. We are all building businesses that we intend to be successful, or if they are already successful, we intend to have them stay successful. And that means we have to run them like businesses. We're going to really learn how to do that. Cool. And is it amen or amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Yes. I mean, like everything you just said.
That's why I'm here.
My name is Amen. I'm an actor. Yeah, like literally everything you just said. I mean, I guess I'm interested in building my legacy, and that being, you know, whether it be career-wise, family-wise, but then also I feel like another component that is financial-wise, and I have no financial rules whatsoever.
Right.
Like I graduated from school not too long ago, and I have loans that I haven't even looked at, which is a whole other conversation. but I'll get like big lump sums of checks here, and then go like a couple of months or weeks without anything, and then I'll get another big lump sum, and I don't know what to do
Right.
with it. Like
Right.
I just most of my peers have checks coming in every 2 weeks, and they have their systems in place. So I recognize that this business is very different
Mm-hmm.
for me, and so I'm here specifically so I can understand what rules or principles that I can apply.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, people who get paychecks every 2 weeks, frankly, I don't know if they have systems or not. Some of them may, right? But it's easier to get away with not having a system. A system is always important, but it's easier to get away with not having one when money comes in every 2 weeks.
But it's also easier to plan.
Absolutely. But for us, not only is it becomes even more critical that we have systems, that we have a plan, because our lives are less predictable. So I think sometimes what we think is, because my life is less predictable, I can't have a system or I can't plan. Whereas in fact, it's even more important that we plan, right? Great. Thank you. Amen. Laura Lee?
I'm Laura. I'm an actor, and what I would most like to accomplish is to create and implement a new habit of having awareness of and managing my money, and how that will make a difference in my life. I want to have clarity and knowledge to make the decisions about how to spend the money. I mean, some of it is needs, and some of it is wants. But I feel like everything's so muddy, it's just kind of like, and then I feel like another way it'll change my life is by tracking it and having this system in place and this new habit of taking care of that relationship.
Yeah.
I feel like that will motivate me to earn more money. And to something like Blair was saying, know where to invest in my career, because I feel like if I have that clarity over my relationship with my money, that I'll know how to make more of it. And I feel like it'll motivate me to focus more on getting more acting work.
Absolutely. Yeah, that which we track grows, and so I think you're absolutely right that by bringing that order and focus in, not only does focus simply help you be more effective in your pursuit of earning, but I think it also does motivate you, because clarity is very motivating, whereas chaos is very enervating, I think is the word. It really just makes us feel exhausted and like we're not sure what to do moving forward. Perfect. Thank you. How about Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm an actor. I just want to, as far as I want to accomplish, I want to just figure out, have a really clear understanding of what I need to be doing every month to keep myself just stable and grow from there. So I often find that, especially at this stage of my career, I'm kind of just playing the lottery. I'm going up for really exciting opportunities, but they're big enough that I'm just kind of at this point, I'm at the beginning of a marathon, and I want to make sure that that whenever that I'm just kind of well fed so that I can keep in the race.
Right.
And I, I was actually speaking with my roommate last night, and I had the realization that I know what makes me happy, and I know it's hard to get, and figuring out how to be okay as opposed to unhappy when when I'm not doing exactly what I want. And so just, as far as what difference it'll make, I would say 90% of the things I stress about are financial.
Yeah.
and it's been that way for the last 6 years. So, through college and into post college. So, I just want to get to a point where I'm like, can say like, yeah, let's go get a bite without having to be like,
Right.
maybe not there.
Right. And I think, obviously, I think you're acknowledging that that this is a marathon. I love that that's how you put it. It is absolutely not a sprint. And I think what it's about is it's about when you decide to go out and get a bite, that it's a decision and you're able to actually enjoy it. As opposed to, let's get a bite, and then you don't enjoy the bite because you feel guilty the whole time, and afterwards you're stressed about the fact that you made the decision to do it, right? Versus making the decision to do it from a place of knowledge and understanding of how it fits into your picture, and sometimes making the decision not to do it because of how it fits into your picture, but feeling that you are in control.
And I also I recently got my first real paying gig, and so that money. I mean, I was in such a pit at that point that money, I basically didn't make any money. But I do have residuals that will start appearing, and so I want to make sure that money doesn't also. I want to make sure I haven't dug a hole big enough that all that does is fill it, and B, make sure that when I do get it, it lasts in a meaningful way.
Yeah, awesome. And when we get to revenue modeling and really looking at how do you project your income, because believe it or not, that is possible to a degree, right? Not to the same degree as someone who knows exactly what they get paid, but it is possible. And one of the things that's really important is, for instance, as an actor, which so far we've heard from mostly actors, but regardless of what your field is, you have to actually know what the pay scales are. Again, as actors in the room, if I were to throw out the question, what is the SAG scale rate for a week guest star? What's the 3-day rate? What's the single day rate, right? What's a co-star rate? Just think about, could you answer that, right? Because you need to be able to know and to actually revenue model. If you get a week guest star role, what is scale? Because that's frankly likely going to be what you earn. Everybody these days is earning scale, maybe usually scale plus 10. But then you have to be able to factor how much taxes you'll pay on that. Do you, in addition to having an agent, do you have a manager, right? So how much of that do you actually expect to see? Right? And then if your goal is, if you would be thrilled and it would be growth in your career if you booked 4 guest star roles in 2017, you really need to project what that would actually earn you, and then figure out, in addition to that, what are you going to need to do? Because what is so upsetting is when you get an opportunity and immediately after the getting of that opportunity, you're actually depressed because of how much you earned. What is that putting out into the universe, you guys, right? But that happens a lot because not only do we not know, so we have this sort of idea, I'm going to be set. When I get that, I'm going to be set, right? Versus really just having, as any business person would, what will that pay you, right? Not sort of best dream case scenario. What do you really expect it to pay you? So that you go into the job with happiness and pride that you got it, and not disappointment about what you got paid because you know what you were going to get paid. Okay, so that's absolutely a part of the work we're going to do here, and that I'm also going to be encouraging you to start doing. We have to understand the business or businesses that we're in. Great, thanks, Nick. How about Paul?
This Paul?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura's spouse. What do I do in the world? I'm kind of semi-retired in the sense that I'm not pursuing a career per se, but I do work part-time and I also do background work.
What is your part-time work?
I work at Whole Foods.
Oh, great.
The main thing I want to accomplish is just to get organized and for the outcome being reduced stress.
Yeah.
Get income and expenses in balance. So.
Perfect. Big part of what we're going to do, Paul, I promise. Okay? Awesome. Thank you. Lisa.
Hey, I'm Lisa. I feel like after listening to just half of us go, I don't even know where to begin. So, I'm an actor, a model. I have 3 part-time jobs, one of which is for a financial advisor, and I do get paid every 2 weeks, and it sucks because I don't know how much I'm going to make because I'm hourly and I'm part-time. So I feel like I shouldn't need to be here. Like, I work for a major brokerage house. You know, like I could go full-time and have a career there as a financial advisor, and yet I still can't get a handle on my own finances. So I carry a lot of guilt and like shame around where I am financially, and I want to get a better grip on all of it. I have these 3 part-time jobs. I don't know how much I make each month. It's feast or famine. So I want to stop feeling like, sort of like what you were saying, like there's so much famine that when there's feast, I pay off the debt and I do all of these things and then I'm left with nothing at the end. Yeah. And I hate that feeling. So I want to stop acting like I'm so deprived that when I get a little bit, I go nuts, and it's not even with things that I want. I felt guilty today buying gas. I need gas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But like that's how focused and crazed I've become. All I think about is money. And then I work part-time, 30 hours a week with money, with rich people's money. And then you realize like, oh, $1 million is nothing. If you think you have $1 million in the bank to retire on, that's nothing. So like I'm so messed up deeply about money. I just like want to fix it all.
Yeah. So first of all, like one of the things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but the guilt, right, shame and all, we all have that, and it's something that it's so important to be aware of, but also to keep working on, like to keep letting go of that and releasing it as much as possible. You're choosing to learn. You're choosing to, there are, trust me, plenty of financial advisors who are disasters with their money, okay? Like being in a particular field doesn't necessarily mean that you learned how to do this for yourself or that you're actually doing it for yourself, right? So what I'm going to be encouraging you guys to do a lot from this point forward is to simply keep being proud of yourselves for choosing to be on the journey. And the only thing, if you're going to allow there to be guilt, make sure it's guilt about being out of action around learning, not guilt about what you don't know or the mistakes you've made in the past, and let that be motivation to say, okay, how do I keep going? How do I keep growing in my knowledge? And what's going to be important for you, Lisa, and I think for so many of us, is that this work will help you define what those jobs need to do for you, or you are going to need to move on, right? Because in many cases, and you heard my story, 11 part-time jobs, right? In many cases, we allow them to decide, this is what you get, right? And I don't know how long you've been there, but you may really be quite valuable to them. And it might be as simple as you saying, you know what, guys? I'm now doing this work, and this is what it will take for me to be able to live, right? Sometimes that's really what has to happen, is that we have to tell. We have to ask for what it is we actually need. But when we don't know what we need, we take whatever anybody will give us, right? So great. I'm excited for you. Stephanie.
Yeah, I used to be an actress, now I'm in marketing. I still don't have a job though. So it's been kind of rocky. I was back in Europe for a while and came back and now have sideline jobs. So I have lump sums of money coming in and I spend them like crazy. So I'm back to square one. So I want to get my finances in control and pay off my debts. And when I do get money, not spend it all right away.
Not spend it all. Okay.
And then what do I feel like what would make a difference in my life is that I feel at ease, I feel relief, and and also basically right now I think also I'm more conscious since I'm getting older.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I could do this when I was 20, but hello, now it's really hitting me. Well, what happens if I'm retired? I can't go on like this, because it also gets harder the older you get to get jobs.
Right.
So it doesn't get easier at all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Joanne.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm an actress and a dancer, and I also am a teaching artist. That's how I have my income coming in, and some other doing some sales and marketing for some nonprofits. So I've avoided waiting tables my entire life, which is really happy. So I found flexibility in that to pay all my bills on time as an actress and pursuing other goals. And lately I've had a fluctuation. So I'm back actually. I've taken Miata's class in the past when it was called Abundance Bound. So I'm proud graduate of that. So it's really a valuable class, as some of you already know. And I have some things that I've been working on that I want to add on to everything I already do to accomplish the next steps going forward in my career and life. So I want to balance all my income streams that are coming in so that I can find the extra money to create the things that I'd like to create, and go on a nice long vacation or a sabbatical abroad while maybe teaching or something or working as an actor performing, and build up savings that has been depleted the past couple of years so I need to live off of it. So with incomes going up and down. So we all have the same story, I think, basically in different ways. So I just want to kind of find that balance. And I hope that this class, having a refresher of this class, will help me to, refocus on, what the goals I had in the past with previously taking this class and really getting back on track on getting the bills paid on time, which has been good so far. I've been able to do that, but the past few months it has been fluctuating. And so this way I can know where those monies are going and then that my plans that meet my bank account.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to the plans are going to happen anyway. I've decided that the plans are going to happen whether the bank account is zero or not. I've made a decision. I've had the decision for a while. And so far, what I've been telling the universe is they've been giving it to me. So thank you, universe. But at the same token, the wolf is at the door. So there's that,
Yeah.
the wolf is always at the door.
And
How far you can keep away.
And I would I'd like us to work to get to the place where we don't feel that the wolf is always at the door, right? And also, I'm a huge believer in the universe, huge believer. And we have to be, you remember the quote I shared with you last time, that the universe is not delivering $1 million into chaos, right? Like, we have to have the systems. We have to know what it is that we need. We have to know what it is that we're going after and what it is that we're asking for. So, like, Joanne, when you say, I know what my plans are, that's great. Because then what she can do is define what specifically are the financial requirements for that plan to happen without stress, without burden, without the wolf, right? Because then it becomes not just I'm asking the universe for it, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but it also becomes, and this, I have a plan of action to create this, because then the universe can help us, right? It can help us when we are in clear, focused action. Cool, thanks, I'm glad you're back. So Kenneth. Yes. Hi.
Kenneth or Ken,
Ken.
it's easier for you guys, I guess. Yeah, hi. I am a writer-director. I've been doing a lot of freelance stuff just in the film industry as well. Basically any job that comes my way so I can actually pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of what I was hoping to accomplish is, again, similar to what people are saying. It's like, I know very well that it's that feeling of, having like a big paycheck show up and then it just kind of disappears. You feel bad about, the story about, buying gas, like that feels very familiar to me too. So, just finding a way to just be more constant, I guess, with my finances like that. And find a way to also pay off my student loans as well, because I've got like, I don't know, 50 grand in loans and I have no idea how I'm even going to begin to tackle that.
Okay, great. So yeah, a few of you have mentioned debt, student loans, and possibly other kinds of debt as well. And we're absolutely, it's week 4 that we really look at that. But I have a debt system that I'll teach you, right? And then everybody's debt plan is individual, because what you're going to do is you'll take this system and then figure out how your numbers work in the plan, right? But that's what we all need, those of us who have debt. We need to have a plan in place for paying it off. And then I'm a big believer, and this is something that we'll really look at, I'm a big believer that we need to put the plan in place so that you know the plan is in place and you're executing on the plan, and then we need to focus on your growth, right? Because sometimes all of that focus and the feelings of weight around the debt just mean that that's all we're in. We're just sort of wallowing in the fear of the debt. And so we just sort of end up staying in that place. Whereas even if, I'm not saying that this will be the case, but let's say we put a plan in place. And if you and I ran the numbers, today it looks like a 20-year plan to pay off your debt, right? I understand that you may not feel excited about a 20-year plan, but the truth is that 20 years is going to pass.
Yeah.
So at least what we know is that it's a plan, and that in 20 years it will be gone. Then we focus on your growth, and what always happens is it won't take 20 years because we're focusing over here. But we have a plan, so let's move on. Do you know what I mean? And focus on something else. So you guys will see, and we'll talk more about that when we get there. And it's definitely something that I know goes against what some of us have been taught. Like, some of us really are living our lives like, I cannot move forward until I deal with this debt. And I think that there are problems and issues with that. So we'll talk about that more. Okay, thank you. Now, I'm sorry, it looks like there's another Laura.
Right here.
Okay, perfect.
I just put I also go by Laura Diane. That's my first and middle name.
Okay, and you're Ran.
Yes.
Last name is Ran. Okay, perfect. And do you have the group participation form?
No.
That's
Not if I hadn't printed out.
that.
Oh, this one.
Yes, you fill it. Perfect. Thank you. They like hang you up and quarter you if you don't get these. So, okay, perfect. So tell us about you.
My name is Laura, and since there's a Laura, you can call me Laura Diane. Divine L-A-R-A. In the world, I sing and dance, and I'm also an adjunct professor, so that's my part-time
Great.
gig that I have.
Where are you an adjunct professor?
At Scripps College in Illinois.
Great.
And then just answer the questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What I do in the world, did I just say
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. What I would most like to accomplish, actually, I would like to get married and have more children. I have one child. I would also would like to be able to do more of my art professionally, and that would include singing, dance, and writing as well. I would like to model and act more, but I haven't really gotten into that
Okay.
so much.
So, what do you want to accomplish in these 6 weeks?
I definitely want to have more focus on, create a plan to attack the debt in my life. I have a lot of student loan debt, IRS debt. So I think clarity would be key, and I would also like to be able to have multiple streams of income and balance those, so that I don't have to be stressed out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Paul, another. We have
That's
two
true.
Pauls.
No, I am
Yes.
Paul.
You're awesome, Paul.
Paul Mercier, thank you. I'm an actor, primarily voiceover. What I'd most like to accomplish, first of all, I just want to say I'm really inspired. I'm so glad that so many young people are here, because if I had had this when I was your age, well, I don't know, I wouldn't be here today. Maybe I would, I don't know. But the whole point is, oh my God, yeah, you know what? You think, when I was 32, I finally paid off my student loans, and it was, I don't know, 100, my wife and I combined ours, 100, and it was a freaking Ferrari or a house, or whatever you wanted, and was so stymied for the longest time, oh my God, I'll never, just what you said. I wish I could just repeat everything you said, because it's all the truth. But the whole point of the story is, my God, you're gonna do it. And to have these people and the wonderful things that they support in place, oh my God, it's such a wonderful thing. So just, my God, it's a beautiful place to be here. So thank you very much for including me. Because what I want to do what I want to accomplish for the next 6 weeks is create a gorgeous and very attractive money management system that I want to be with. And just, oh, this is so great of a system that I don't want to do anything else. I know that's sort of partially true, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To take the pain out of that money management idea and sort of philosophy that whether I grew up with or just accumulated, and also be a bit, I know I'm a little over dramatic, but be more realistic, because I had people pull me aside and say, son, you gotta pay cash for everything, when you go to Hollywood, whatever it is. It's like, okay, great, yeah, how do you do that? And still be flexible, because what the whole thing is, the difference that it will make is, it'll shift my focus out of sort of, well, you have to work hard for money. You have to struggle for money, and that's how somebody knows you're working, because boy, look at this sweat on my brow, right? Yeah. To be able to make those kind of clear decisions and be easier with the decisions, so that they don't come out of a focus on lack and stress, so that I developed a regular rhythm to deal with the irregular income and the stress that it caused.
Yeah, perfect. And I love your description. In your case, you were talking about the system, but of the financial relationship you want to have, right?
That's it, yeah. Because otherwise, I go, oh my God, no,
right.
And then I hide it,
right.
Because it's like, I don't want to deal with it.
And
even if I have money to pay for it, I don't want to. I don't want to see that something's going away.
Exactly.
No, I want more to come to me.
And what we have to, it's so important what he said, because you are going to have to continue to insist and continue to ask yourself, how do I want this relationship to be? And so how can I shift the way I'm thinking, the way I'm talking, the way I'm acting right now, right? It's really no different. Obviously I shared in Nuts and Bolts the concept that is really what I want you to hold on to. Your relationship with money is no different from any good relationship that you treasure and want to have in your life, right? You don't get to decide whether to have this relationship with money or not. You don't get to decide. Every single one of us must have one. So given that I can't split up with it, I can't get a divorce, right? Then the only reasonable choice is to make it a good relationship. And that means that I am responsible for that. If I'm being just a real witch to my husband all the time and just don't want to talk to him and don't want, right? Like, I am playing that role. I am playing that role in the relationship, right? And so I have to look at how I am showing up, because that's the only piece that I can change. So when you sit down with your system, as I help you develop systems, right? When you sit down with it, when you sit down and you're like, oh, I hate this. God, I don't want to do this. Oh, I'm going to ask you to start paying attention to that and shifting. And how do you shift? Well, everybody's going to be different, but maybe I need to, all right, do I need to get myself a cup of tea? Do I want to pour myself a glass of wine? Do I need to put some music on? Do I need to put a book on tape on? What do I need to do so that, let me try again. Sit down with my software and say, yeah, this is what is going to help me be organized. It's what's going to help me know what's going on. And so I embrace that, right? Let me come at this a little bit differently. That's something that we're going to have to be constantly aware of, because there's no box you check that suddenly you're always happy about your money and it's always exciting and fun, right? We are going to have to keep showing up to it. Did you have a question or a statement? Yeah.
Statement. I have faith in myself to do this because nothing was harder than acting. Because I fell into it. I swing dance. I still do, and then be in this commercial, and the team, and they put me in a film, and then I was Pat Hartley. What's Pat Hartley? And I asked a bunch of waiters, what? Yeah, they gave me Pat Hartley. I don't know what is that. And boom, and then so I got an agent quickly. My color, because a lot of Hispanic stuff was going in. Sure, you're signed here, and then I'd go in these auditions and just like Cindy Brady when she looked at some of you probably don't know that, but I would just freeze, and I thought, man, I got the SAG card given to me, I'm here, that's why I took this acting class, and I met the teacher. Just the eye contact and where to go, like showing you don't show your soul. As a guy, you had to be cool. You had to be tough, and it was just so hard. But I knew. Then give the card back, because you're not going to succeed.
Right.
Just give it back. If you're not going to do this class, and I hated it. It wasn't any fun. But then I learned this is fun. And this is good, and I excelled at it.
Right.
And because I loved it, and so I have the same faith in this class as much as numbers I don't like. But if I can do that,
right. If you make the commitment to
and I always thought, and
absolutely.
after listening to your class, I thought maybe the lady who was signing me up for SAG, okay, here's your receipt, and go upstairs and speak to you. And when you're done, you can take your card now.
Right? Yeah, I should talk to her. Right? That should be how it works.
Should be
how it works.
You'll get your card after you take this financial class, and that would have made a world of difference.
That's very true.
And it's so funny because isn't anyone else musical theater background, right? So so that was really how I started singing and dancing. And I remember, do you guys, and it's the same with any play, with anything. Like I would show up to the first rehearsal, and literally, and they're like going to be all these combinations and all these songs and the tap routines and I literally would think, there is no way this show is opening. Right? And like in summer stock, this show is opening in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like there's no way. But you keep going and you show up and you learn the dances and you learn the songs. And even though still I will have nightmares that like the curtain's about to go up and I don't know the dance and it's like crazy. But like and it's the same with anything. I'm not saying this isn't sometimes going to feel frustrating and you're learning new skills, you're building new muscles. Someone down there said they wanted a new money management routine, right? I think, Laura, that was you.
Habit, yeah.
A habit, right? And so, yes, until it's a habit, we have to build that muscle. And that's what you're all doing here. Perfect.
And sometimes it'll be fun, and sometimes the habit is like brushing your teeth,
Yes.
and that's not really fun.
But you
it's
do.
rewarding.
Exactly.
But you don't hate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good. Thank you. Yes.
And I'll add to that about the habit. I mean, I'm back here and I've taken the class before, it was years ago, and I'm back because, you know, if you get out of the habit, right? So the habit has to stay, the habit then becomes a routine, the routine becomes an affirmation, or maybe we want to mix it around, wherever you want to do that. But it has to become an affirmation every day that you're looking and keeping on top of the finances, what's coming in, what's going out, and et cetera. And
Absolutely.
so the habit does, you know, it's keeping that habit in place, you know, and we think like, oh, I got this down. And, but one small thing happens and, you know, a bill comes in they're not expecting, whether it's a personal or the car breaks down or whatever, which you're going to go over. So, you know, all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, so that the money you had or whatever, that putting away with the habit I have has suddenly become something else.
Right,
It's,
right.
So I just want to throw that in there, that it's
And
key to keep that eye on the prize.
And that's something that we're really going to talk about over the course of this time is creating community and accountability, right? And so when you guys finish this class, you'll become a part of the graduate community, and the graduates meet once a month. And I really encourage you to, no, are you going to make it every month? No, and I hope that sometimes you don't make it because you're working and all of those wonderful reasons. But what's important is creating that accountability in our lives and also just staying in the conversation. Because we're all, right, it's no different than like who's joined a gym before and stopped going after a little bit, right? Like we need to stay connected to the conversation and to find the ways that help us stay connected to that conversation, right? So how about Luis? Where's Luis?
Hi.
Hi, there you are.
Hello, everybody. And let's see, what am I doing? I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm a teaching artist. I direct and choreograph, and I also have a freelance graphic design business for over 10 years now, doing print and web work. I just finished an MFA at UCLA in dance and kind of wanted to open up the door to be able to teach in colleges and universities.
Good.
I also work a lot with at-risk youth to kind of introduce creative processes for, how would you say, well, for a lot of reasons that creative processes are very helpful for many different populations, including myself as an individual. So, what's up? I have, you know, being here kind of like on a larger sense is I want to, you know, challenge what I have taken on, what I've learned, and also created for myself in terms of self-sacrifice and nonprofit arts. I worked for about 20 years in dance, and all of that, just about all of it, was in a nonprofit mode. And so what I just, you know, I kind of was living my dream, you know, went around the world, lived in New York for a long time working, and it was all really great, but I just noticed over the long haul, the choices that I was making as a freelance, you know, choreographer, mostly dancer, interpreting with choreographers, just, I've kind of landed myself in a very challenging financial situation. And so now I'm kind of just, you know, left to really challenge the assumption that to be an artist in this culture, let's say the assumption that I made for myself is that you sacrifice and sort of like this whole idea of, for me, a non-functional idea of that the artist is meant to jump for scraps. So the hungriest artist, the one that jumps the highest for the bone. I just, I'm realizing that I've kind of taken that psychology on.
Yeah.
And so all of this, awareness work, clarity work, with your help and the support of the group is where I'm at, so that I can create more of a situation that I can have more time to be profitable and enjoying my own creative process, and that is teaching, that's making stuff that I care about, and then overall, I would like to be able to own my own home, whatever the nature of that home is, and to be in a situation that I could, if the opportunity arises, to have a family,
right?
To have a child or more within a committed relationship and all of that kind of stuff. And the last thing I'll just say is that it's really good to see a couple who's doing this work together, and I can say that probably that my previous relationship that it dissolved mutually, but finances were probably not an unsmall part
Absolutely.
of that circumstance. The
Yeah.
stress of that definitely impacted our relationship. So I really want to look at that, from a point of view of, improving all of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Luis. It's absolutely huge. And unfortunately, it is the reason that many relationships struggle. But that makes sense, because think about how many of you have shared that you're losing sleep over money, that you're stressed, that you're anxious, that you're unhappy. Now put two of you together with those same feelings, right? And it just really can be a recipe for disaster. So it is so important to look at ourselves, and when we're in a partnership, to see how we can look at that together. Great. And I loved what Luis shared, because this concept that to choose to be an artist is to choose to starve is a very powerful one. And it's important to look and see how much you have accepted that as true, even if you don't really realize. It's something worth thinking about. Some of you may have heard this story, but I don't think all of you have, but so forgive me. But did I tell you the story about years ago when I was first starting my business and I got the email from the woman entitled "Shame on You"? No? Okay, great. Yeah. So that was a lovely time. So anyway, I had recently started Abundance Bound, my company, and it was probably maybe 2 or 3 years old. And I went to my email, and there was an email. The subject line was "Shame on You," all caps, exclamation point, right? So before I even click on the email, literally, I start to shake, my heart starts to beat, right? I already well up on tears, because I was a pretty sensitive person, and I was even more sensitive back then. And so I proceed to read her email, and what she said in the email was, "Shame on you for charging artists for your services." She said, if you really had something to offer, if you really had something to teach, you would do it for free, she said, or at least at cost, right? Like she has any idea what my costs are, right? But so after I stopped crying, because honestly, I did cry. It really hurt my feelings and played into all of my own fears and anxieties that nice people don't ask for money and, all of that stuff. You all looked a little bit shocked at the fact that, she sent me that email. But if you think about it, her thought process isn't that different from what Luis is sharing, right? Her thought process is, you should just do it for the love of doing it and be willing to just take any little bits that people maybe ask for donations, maybe, right? That is her belief system. And so it is her belief system for everyone else as well. So what's really sad is not so much that she wrote me a nasty email, right? In truth, it forced me to have to look at why it hit me the way that it hit me. But also what is sad is that as long as that's her belief, she will never be financially successful, ever. Because unless she's an enormous hypocrite, it isn't just that she doesn't believe I should be paid for what I do. She clearly can't believe that she should be paid for what she does. Someone taught her that it's just about loving to do it, right? And that is something that's really, really important for us to look at. Why did it hurt my feelings so much? Because I had some of those beliefs too, that, should you need to or want to earn a living? Whatever it is we do in the world, the multiple things that many of us do in the world, we hopefully and ideally are adding value in the world. And that value you should absolutely be paid for. Do we believe that our doctor, our pediatrician should just see my kids because they're cute, right? Like, we expect that pediatrician has invested in his or her education, in their ability to heal, and I expect them to be paid for what they add in the world. And we have to make sure that we expect the same for ourselves. Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Rashay, are you here yet? No, not yet. Okay, perfect. And so then, who am I missing? Yes. Okay, so Mel and
Renee.
And oh yes, so Renee, you're in the Tuesday class, and Mel, you're also in the Tuesday class. Okay, perfect. So tell us, Mel, you go first.
Hey everyone, I'm Mel, and I act, write, and produce. In the next 6 weeks, I really want to focus on financial literacy and creating a stronger system and assessment of like where I am and how I can create multiple sources of income.
Okay.
Because I've been grateful to have booked a few jobs, but I've been living off of those for like 2 years, and now I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to I either have to book something like tomorrow. Or like in the next like in the next like 6 months, and the next project that I'm in doesn't come out until like July, August. So I kind of want to make sure that I know where my money is going to, and I'm investing in my business and myself so that I'm not like constantly stressed.
Perfect, thank you. Do you have that group participation form?
Yeah.
Could you pass it down? Thank you.
Can I ask a
Yes,
question?
absolutely.
Vis-a-vis that, do you talk about here in this 6 weeks about that idea of still doing your work, but also keeping your mind on, or is that part of the system? That because we are actively seeking work while we're working,
Yes.
otherwise that's part of what creates those values of, okay, now I gotta find work.
Right.
But then the best time to get work is while you're working.
Yes.
So do you touch on that here?
Yes, absolutely. I think, because I think I'm connected to what you're asking. And, guys, and as we go, as I teach you new lessons and things like that, you can always check in with me. Like, do you need me to go further with it? And then I'll say, oh, we actually are going to, or yes, let's talk about this. Because I definitely want to make sure I have a curriculum, right? But I also want to really make sure that I get your questions answered. But yeah, we are really going to look at how do we have to spend our time, right? And how are we actually spending our time? Because believe it or not, the two are incredibly connected. Like a lot of you have spoken about, you want to have more clarity around where your money is going, right? We also need, in many, many cases, to have significantly more clarity about where our time is going. Because again, those people with the jobs that they go to every day, where they get paychecks every 2 weeks, their time is very clearly defined, right? For many of us, our time is less defined, so we have to be super, super precise about it. And so, yeah, we will be talking about that, and hopefully it'll help. And Renee.
Yes, hello,
Hello.
everybody. I am what I like to consider a creative entrepreneur. And with that, mainly that comprises of commercial acting, voiceover. I'm starting my own jewelry design business.
Great.
And in the interim, I work in part-time retail sales at Bloomingdale's. And I get clients in there every day, and they just throw around thousands of dollars, and I'm like, wow, that's my rent. and I want to be in that place of stability. I want to be able to harmonize financial stability with the ability to be able to invest in my creative endeavors. I want to be able to get out of deficit, which I'm in right now from student loans, and just like, I think that my relationship with money is actually great because I think about it all the time. I have fun when we're together.
Oh, good, okay.
Without it, obviously. But I want to be able to strengthen my relationship with responsibility.
Yeah.
And I am irresponsible, which is what has gotten me into debt and deficit. And I want to be better at that because now I want to be an adult.
Yes.
And eventually have a village of children. And in order to be able to take care of them, I have to take care of myself.
Absolutely.
So I hope that I will be able to just be able to get all the value from this class and, create those plans that I can stick to. I'm challenging myself to a savings plan this year.
Good. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you touch on it.
Good.
Obviously, I don't know. But, I just want to be better. I want to be able to fund some creative projects, such as like some nonprofits and wildlife preservation and homeless initiatives.
Awesome.
And so I just need the resources to do that. And I know it's in my control.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And one of the things, Renee, that I think is so fun about what you said that we can all sort of think about is, yes, so I love the way you describe your relationship with money, right? And what I would throw out just to sort of keep the analogy going is that it sounds like Renee and money are like in that blast, dating, they're having a good time kind of relationship, right?
When you're together.
When you're together, right, exactly, right? And, like Renee it may really be time to make a commitment, right? And really make a commitment and show up and be honest and be respectful and like all of that stuff. Just if we're going to keep the analogy going, right? But it's great because again, now it's just about deepening the relationship that you're already connected to. It really is about taking it to that next level, which I think is really exciting. Perfect. Bless you. Bless you. All right, everybody. Did I talk to everybody? Perfect. And Renee, can you hand me up that group participation form too? Perfect. Thank you. So, guys, I love already the energy in this room. I really feel like we're going to have a fun 6 weeks, and I'm also super excited already, believe it or not, for you guys to join the graduate group because there's a lightness in all of you and an honesty and just a courage that I think is pretty. I don't say that every time, believe it or not. I really don't. So I'm excited. Can you financially sustain as an artist or with whatever it is that you're doing in your life for no matter how long it takes, right? Nick referred to it as a marathon. Are you truly in it for the marathon. That's what this class is about. And my job is to really give you the tools and the support that you need so that you can keep going. You can stay in whatever game you're in, okay? That's what the class is about. But the biggest hurdle that we face as artists, but I think really this is true of most people when it comes to looking at money, is the desire to do this work, okay? Now, what's really great is you guys seem, what I'm feeling, thank you so much, what I'm feeling at this point is I really am sensing a lot of desire. Like, none of you seem, you may feel some of it, and it's perfectly normal, but none of you feel right now to me like you're here because you feel like you have to be, right?
Court order.
Right, court order, exactly, required service. And so that's great. You're certainly coming into it with the right mindset, the right mind frame, and the key is going to be holding on to that, okay? Because sometimes, and in fact probably often, this can be the work that doesn't seem glamorous, right? This can be the work that feels sometimes like it is taking you away from what it is that you really want to be doing. So we want to focus on our craft, right? We want to focus on our growth as artists. We want to focus on our pursuit of work as creatives and artists. We want to focus on our families, on our hobbies, there's so many things that we want to focus on, and it can feel like this money stuff is taking me away from that, right? That this work is taking you away from what you really want, or that money in general is keeping you from what you really want, right? And instead, the shift that I want you to make is recognizing that, in fact, what we want, everything that we want, is really inextricably linked to this work. I'm not saying that everything is about money, but truly there is a financial component to just about anything that you want to do in the world, right? Would you agree? And so, Renee, what I loved about what Renee shared is really her vision for some of the things she really wants to be doing in the world. She said nonprofits and environmental, and maybe you also said helping children and all of those things, right? And one of the things that we're going to, return to and talk about a lot throughout this class is finding the ways to be living that life already as much as is possible, right? So finding the ways to bring that energy, the spirit of what she's talking about already into her life. Right? So how can she get involved with organizations that are similar to what it is that she intends to create in the world? But ultimately, does Renee want to be able to write a $25 check? Or does she want to be able to write a $25,000 check or a $250,000 check, right? Ultimately, does Renee want to be able to go volunteer for an hour? Or would she like to be able to, travel to work with an organization in another country for 3 months, right? So that all has a financial component. And the stronger that you make yourself financially, ultimately, the more powerful you will be able to be in the world, right? As that grows, as you grow your financial stability, it will grow your ability in every area that is important to you. So I want you to remember that, to stay connected to the fact that when you're in a class like this, when you're crunching your numbers, when you're sitting down with that new software that Miata got you to download that now you don't understand and is frustrating you, right? Recognize that you are working on your art. You are working on your craft. You're working on your vision for everything and everyone you intend to be in this world. That's part of the reason why I frame the question, what do you do in the world, right? I frame it that way because I want us to start thinking about that. Not just, what do you do, right? But, because isn't that like always the question, who are you in the world? And who do you want to be? Who are you working towards being in the world? Because staying connected to that is what will keep you connected to this work, even when it gets hard or challenging or difficult, okay? So, as I shared with you guys in Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, I'm also an actor, I'm a writer, and I shared my journey that brought me to start my company 14 years ago, Abundance Bound. What I wanted when I created Abundance Bound was I wanted there to be clear steps to follow, right? There was nothing more frustrating to me than a whole lot of excitement and inspiration. Like, I love excitement and inspiration, and I think it's really important and hopefully is always a part of my teaching. But, excitement and inspiration without direction can be really, really frustrating. And so I wanted there to be clear steps. And these steps don't work in the way that, oh, I finished the step. I've changed my financial mindset. Good with that, right? I'm organized. Done with that, right? No, they don't work that way. As Joanne shared, and as others have seen who have, been a part of this work in the past, it's about continually returning to the steps. It's about having concrete steps so that you can always say, how am I doing with that organization? Maybe over the last 6 months, I've been really busy and a lot's been happening, and I gotta get back to clearing my clutter, or I've fallen off the wagon a little bit in terms of my software. Or the mindset, that's a piece we're constantly working on. Maybe you're now at the place where you're saying, how I now feel like I need to really bring investing into my financial picture. I've gotten a lot of those stable initial steps settled and they're working and I have my habits and my routines, but now I really want to look at step 7. I feel like that's something that now I want to add in on a higher level in my life. So these are the steps of the system that I created. I called it the Artist Prosperity System. And over this 6 weeks, these are the steps that we're going to be looking at. Now, change your financial mindset and how you talk about money. That's going to be constant. It's going to be something that we'll have lots of mini conversations about. But I also want to remind you about the psychology of money, which is a 6-week workshop here. It's led by members of the social work team. They are amazing and brilliant at really helping you to dive deep and look at what are your financial paradigms? What are the scripts you're carrying, those belief systems that may be holding you back, right? Because the first thing we have to do is we have to acknowledge what our beliefs are. And for many of us, we've just accepted them as truth. We don't even recognize anymore that they're beliefs, right? I think it was Paul over here who said, that you gotta be struggling. in order to be successful. It's the person who's sweating the most. Wasn't that what you said? It's the right. That's a belief system. I was absolutely raised to believe that if I wasn't suffering, I couldn't expect to be successful. But I didn't realize it was a belief system. I just thought it was so, right? So we first have to look at what we believe, and then we have to ask ourselves, is that belief serving me? Is it serving me? Not is it right or wrong, is it serving me? Because I have to suffer to be successful definitely wasn't serving me. Lots of tears, 11 jobs, no sleep. It definitely wasn't serving me. Did it serve my parents who came from war-torn, poverty-stricken countries and came to this? Absolutely. It served them, right? But it wasn't serving me, and so I had to be willing to look at the possibility that being successful didn't have to be painful, that it could actually be fun, that I could be having a good time while I was growing, right? I had to look at that. So as you're diving into this class, I encourage you to maybe keep a journal. Write down, even if it's just in your workbook for this class, write down the things that come up for you so that you can either look at them throughout the process, or maybe if you'll decide after this class is over that, maybe I'll go take that class, The Psychology of Money, and then you'll have some notes already about some of the things that you have a suspicion may be true for you, okay? Clear your financial clutter and get it organized for good. That's what we started with in Budgeting Nuts and Bolts. We're going to dive a little deeper into that today and talk about, when you really need to have that initial work complete for this class, okay? Making financial abundance a priority. We're really going to look at that next week, and that is where we start looking at our time and how we're spending our time, right? And are we truly making our financial abundance, our financial stability, a priority in our lives, right? And what does that actually look like? Because if I went around the room and I asked each of you, what are things that are priorities for you? You would all have different answers as to what are priorities, right? And that's great. Like, we should all know what our priorities are. But if I say that being a good mother is a priority for me, you guys would expect that that shows up a particular way in my life, right? I have to be putting some time into my children and some resources into my children, right? And so if I asked you all, is your financial abundance, is that a priority for you? Most of us, I think, would say yes. But then the real question comes in, how is that showing up? How much time are you actually spending on your financial abundance, on your financial relationship, right? Build a strong vision for your financial future. We're really going to look at, once we've figured out where you are right now, where is it that you want to go? And we're also going to differentiate between goals and our vision. Both are important, and I'm going to ask you to create both. But some examples would be that Renee and Louise, you both painted a beautiful vision for your lives and who you intend to be in this world. And we all have to have that. And then we also have to map out our goals along the road to that vision. You may have a vision of a debt-free life, right? But if you right now have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 worth of debt, would you agree that there are goals along the way to that vision of a debt-free life? And so we're going to talk about both of those things and how I believe you can meld both to really keep yourself powerfully moving forward. Because sometimes some of us only have the vision, but we don't have clear, concrete goals that we can work towards. And so that vision always feels like it's way out there in the distance. Others of us, we only have goals. We're down here in the nitty-gritty of it, right? And that can start to feel really draining because we have to sometimes lift up out of this and stay connected to the vision. Why am I doing this? Well, because of this, right? So we're going to look at both. Implement techniques for automatic and stress-free debt elimination. I talked a little bit about that, but that's going to be really important. And automatic and stress-free, because as I said, I want you guys to be able to focus on the other parts of your life. But to do that, we got to get a plan in place to deal with the debt. And if you don't have any debt, I promise you that first of all, understanding how a debt plan works will help you when and if in the future you choose to take on debt. Because there may be times when purposefully taking on debt makes sense. Buying a house, starting a business, right? And we want to be able to do that with a clear understanding of how we, going into debt already with a plan to pay it off, that's the best way to go into debt if you're going to go into debt, okay? We also, learning to really earn. That is, we start looking at that at week 5, and it's where we're going to look at revenue modeling, which is something I've mentioned, but that's where how do you start to take more control of your earnings than many of us have had in the past. So for many of us, we live our lives pretty much with 100% of our earning being dependent upon other people letting us know when and if we're allowed to earn, okay? And 100%, when 100% of your earnings are dependent on other people saying yes, there is probably a direct correlation between that and honestly, your happiness right now and your stress level. And so I am not saying there is an aspect of the industry that all of us chose that makes that a reality, okay? But 100%, it's going to be very much up to each of you. I'm not going to define what percentage you get to be comfortable with, but I am going to encourage you, if right now it's 100%, to consider that the more you reduce that percentage, the more your confidence and feeling of power in your life will increase, okay? And you'll look, Nick may be comfortable with 90% and 10%, right? Other people may say, no, you know what, I'm more of a 50-50 person or even a 70-30%. It's totally up to you, but you have to know what choice it is that you're making. And I promise you, you'll come out of this class very, very clear on what percent you're taking back control of, okay? Learning to really earn is also where we look at what I talked about making sure that you're separating business from personal, making sure that you really understand how businesses need to track and run their money. I want you guys to all understand corporate structure, not because you're going to necessarily run out and start a corporation tomorrow. For many of you, that may not be. For most of you, that's probably not the right thing to do right now. But what I do want you to understand is how corporate structure works and why the entire sort of financial system in this country is designed to benefit corporate structure. So I can virtually guarantee to you that there is no truly financially successful person who is not operating at least partially in a corporate structure, okay? And so just understanding that helps us, again, keep our eye on what it is that we are growing towards. Because ultimately, if big financial success is something that you want, you will need to and want to move into a corporate structure, okay? So that's what Learning to Earn is about. Just on that note, as a little bit of a side note, I gave all of you this sheet just because I want you to be aware that at the end of this month, they do have David Rogers coming from Actors Tax Prep. He's not, it's not just for actors, it really is for anybody in entertainment. I moderated his workshop last year. I find him to be really informative and have lots of very, very good information about the way that you need to be keeping your records as an entertainment professional to take maximum advantage of the tax benefits that are available to you, and to also be ready for an audit should you be audited. We are the audit capital of the country. Los Angeles is the audit capital of the country, and it is because of all of us in this room. The IRS understands that if they audit a high percentage of entertainment professionals, they are likely to successfully get a lot of fines. And that is because of what many of us are doing and not doing, and the records that many of us are keeping and not keeping. So we'll do some of that work in this class, but I want you to know that this is available. Please take advantage of it if it's of interest and helpful to you and works with your schedule. You absolutely need to RSVP because they'll need to be ready for however many of you decide to come. And then accelerate your wealth by investing regularly. We don't spend a lot of time on that in this class. It is actually, we will look at investing the same week that we look at debt, because I believe that they are opposite sides of the same coin. I want those of us who have debt to be working on getting out of a debt cycle while also working on getting into a wealth cycle. We need to do both. And for those of you who don't have the debt cycle to get out of, we need to get you working on building a wealth cycle. But this idea that I can't look at building my wealth until I'm done with my debt, I'm going to argue against that. Okay, and so we'll look at both sides. Obviously, I'm not an investment advisor, but I want you to understand the wealth cycle and how getting our money working for us is so, so critical. Not just for retirement, whenever or if ever that may be, but just because when our money is working for us, that gives us additional freedom, right? Because that's money that you are not yourself working for. The last two steps, surround yourself with other wealth builders and be persistent on your path to prosperity. Those are really inextricably linked. And so we're going to talk about those at the end of the class. Surrounding yourself with other wealth builders, that's what you've already started doing right here. It's what I hope you'll all do as a part of the graduate community, and in as many other ways as you can in your life. And it's really just about surrounding yourself with people who are on this journey, who are speaking this language, because it is hard when we're just surrounded by people who, oh, let's all go out for drinks, oh, let's all go out for dinner, oh, let's go shopping, right? And truthfully, who was it who said they work at Bloomingdale's? Yes, Renee, right? And you said, oh, lots of people spending money. And the truth is that I'm willing to bet many of those people actually should not be, right? And are actually massively in debt. And, this is a major problem in our country, the appearance of being fine. But it's very difficult when we're not being honest. We don't have a community of people who are willing to have these conversations so that you can honestly say, you know what, with the work I'm doing, how about we go back to my place and, have a drink there, or whatever, have a potluck, or whatever it is where you feel empowered because the people around you understand what it is that you're up to, and they're really up to the same thing. And that will help you to be persistent, right? Because it is about not quitting, okay? I want you guys over the course of this 6 weeks to actually do the work, right, as we go. So there are going to be assignments every week, and I'll start to explain that in a minute. To the best of your ability, I don't want you just listening and taking great notes and like getting ready to do something with your money, right? This next 6 weeks is about being as in action as you possibly can be. Life is going to happen, and I understand that, right? But just keep doing the best that you can to actually do the work, to, as we go through each step, to actually try and put that step into action in your life, because that is what is ultimately going to put you in greater control, okay? So this first session is about clearing your financial clutter and getting it organized for good. So if you take a look at your workbooks and you take a look at the first page of your workbook, right? So clearing your financial clutter, this is the work that we began together in Budgeting Nuts and Bolts. And over these next few weeks, you are going to finish that process in terms of your assignments. So some of you took Nuts and Bolts. I think the earliest in this class was like last November. Some of you took Nuts and Bolts last Thursday, right? So I totally recognize that those of you who did it in November, maybe you've completed all of the assignments. I'm going to add a couple pieces to it so you can both make sure that those assignments are complete and also add these extra pieces. Some of you literally just started on Thursday. So that you understand the way the class works, this work, the work you started in Nuts and Bolts and that I'm going to add to today, the goal is that you finished it by class 4, okay? So that's the goal, is that you have finished all of those assignments by class 4. Now, each week, so starting next week, I'm going to give you additional assignments, but the assignments will be manageable, if that makes sense. The big job is the job that you started in Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, and you still have a few more weeks to do that. But budget your time, right? Really allocate your time. Again, it's how you go about this relationship. So class 4 for you guys is on a Wednesday. You really don't want to be diving into this on Sunday afternoon before class 4, right? You want to really be breaking it down so that you are, by the weekend before class 4, you're just wrapping it up, okay? Now, so clearing your financial clutter, as we started in Nuts and Bolts, it's about figuring out where you are right now, right? So it's about figuring out exactly how you have been spending, okay? But it's also about creating the environment in which that's possible. So the piece that I'm adding is we all need to create a financial filing system, okay? And that can either be a paper system, or it can be a digital system, or it can be a combination of both, all right? Your financial system, so Laura Diane's, does not have to look like Ken's, does not have to look like Rena's, does not have to look like Javier's, does not have to look like mine. There's no rule for exactly how you have to create your system. The only thing I will say is that piles are not a filing system. Okay, I know, right? Joanne's like, oh, really? Yeah, piles are not a filing system. So this is how you know if you have a system, okay? If in a few weeks I was to knock on Stephanie's door and I'd say, hi, Stephanie, could you just do me a favor? Can you pull out for me your last 6 months of bank statements, and if you could also pull out your last 6 months of any credit cards that you have. And while you're at it, why don't you just also pull out all of your tax deductible records for 2016, okay? Or any other number of sort of financial things that I might ask for. If Stephanie can produce those things in 5 minutes or less with no anxiety, she has a system, okay? And so that's how I want you to assess your system. I give you some guidelines here for those of you who are paper focused. If you flip the page, number 2 on the back side. For those of you who are more digitally focused or a combination of both, if Stephanie says, oh, sure, have a seat, and goes to her filing cabinet, and the drawer easily opens, right? And she's easily able to move her files and say, what was it you wanted? Oh, bank statements, sure, here you go. And credit card statements, here you go. That is a filing system. If she is able, right, way to go, Stephanie. If she's able to say, oh, absolutely, let's just sit down at the table, and here's my laptop, click, click, and here are my bank statements, and click, click. Now, if Stephanie's like, oh, shoot, what's my login for Chase Bank? I think my login, and Bank of America, my login, right? And, 6 months, shoot, okay, I have to download each statement. That's not a filing system, okay? So those of you who are saying, oh, it's all online, right?
Yes.
No, you need to actually download it and either file it digitally or file it in paper, whichever you choose, or both. Because here's the thing, the fact that Chase today allows you to download statements at no cost, maybe a year's worth, that doesn't mean that Chase will allow it tomorrow. And so when Rena, unfortunately, gets audited, and she gets audited for 3 years ago, and needs her bank statements, and suddenly she looks on the Chase website, and every bank statement more than 6 months old is a $3 to $5 charge per bank statement, and by the way, requires an individual written request for each bank statement you want. Has Rena's stress level with that audit just gone from here to here? And it's now become expensive as well, because now she's got to pay for everyone, and probably needs not just year 3, but needs to get year 4 and year 2 as well downloaded. This is why you need to have this stuff either printed out or on your computer. Every year you can simply move the file onto a hard drive. You have maybe a couple copies of your hard drive to be safe. For those of us who are paper-based, I clean out my files every year at around about this time. I create the 8x12 or the 10x12 envelopes where I put in each envelope a certain stack. I label in Sharpies what's in those envelopes, and my 2016 envelopes go into one of those small flat plastic bins, and those live in our storage unit, and I keep 5 years of those, so when I put in 2016, I'll be dumping 2010, right? So you have to have an actual filing system. Now, what I don't want is there are some of you who will actually enjoy spending the next 3 weeks creating a perfectly beautiful, lovely filing system, and in the meantime, you'll avoid your numbers, okay? That we do not want. So what I will say is that if you're someone who has an enormous amount of paper in your life that needs to be dealt with, then you can work on this piece by piece, but start by simply getting your financial paperwork together. And you can do that. To do the work I'm asking you to do, you need 6 months worth, right? So at least gather those 6 months and make sure that you either have a nice file for that stuff or you have well, you're going to need to print them out to do this work anyway, but that you also, if you want to have a digital file, you have a digital file. And then you can work on continuing your organizational process, right, later. Because the numbers are super, super important. And we all know who we are, those of you who will love to dive into the physical organization in order to avoid the numbers. Okay?
Can I ask you?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry. When I attempted, let's say it this way, I did print them out.
Okay.
But then I had a problem of actually doing the calculations.
Okay.
Did you say that we can use the simple planning net financial calculator that helps us with that? Or?
No.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through that process again and then see whether I've answered your question.
Okay, thank you. Because
sure.
I tried my own Excel and that was a disaster.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So that's the first piece. Well, not necessarily in that order, right? But of clearing your financial clutter is we've got to create a filing system. Okay. So then the next piece is what we started in nuts and bolts. Okay. So first or second, it doesn't matter which order you do this in, but we need to identify, to the best of our ability, a kind of history of your current earnings, okay? Guys, I'm going to say again, I said this in nuts and bolts, this is the least important part of this process that I'm asking you to do. So let me break down how I want you to do it, and then I want you to do it to the best of your ability, okay? This is another place where I don't want you spending forever trying to track this piece down, the earnings down. But the way that you're going to approach your earnings is you're going to look at this list of on the left-hand side of all the different ways that you might be earning money, okay? Go ahead, you're going to cross out any of the things that don't apply to you. If you're not getting workman's comp, if you don't have any alimony or child support or interest from an annuity or anything like that, you can go ahead and cross those things out. I want you to take a moment and identify if you have them, what are your sideline employment sources, and actually name them. So if I have multiple ones, if I have two, then what is sideline employment source number one? I am a waiter, right? Sideline employment source number two is I work at Starbucks, right? If you have more, then either on a separate sheet of paper or on the top of this sheet, actually identify them. Say number 3, I answer phones. Number 4, I have a nanny job, right? So I want you to actually break down any sideline sources of employment you have. If you have, give me 1 second, and then if you have done that job for 6 months or more, then I want you to the best of your ability, go back 6 months and just add up. So let's say that I worked at Starbucks, right? What I would do is I would say in July, how much did I earn at Starbucks? How much did I earn in August, September, October, November, and December at Starbucks? I would add all that up, and I would say, okay, in 6 months at Starbucks, I earned $1,800, let's just say. And then I would divide by 6, and I would therefore say, so I am averaging $300 a month from my part-time job at Starbucks. And I would write that down next to, sideline employment source number 1. If I have only been doing that job for 2 months, then do an average of 2 months. If I literally just started the job, then to the best of your ability, what is it you expect to make at that job? But like a lot of you said that you have jobs where it's sort of like, I might work 10 hours, I might work 30, I might work 50, right? And so what we just need to look at is what is the average that job is bringing in, okay? Then for your entertainment industry career, to the best of your ability, I want you to go back 5 years and to the best of your ability on the right-hand side where I've written 5 years of creative earnings, just starting with 2016, write the net. So ideally you will write, what did you actually physically keep, right? From, now I don't mean after expenses, I just mean after taxes, right? So to the best of your ability, okay, you earned $60,000 gross as an actor, but after taxes, you actually kept 38 of that. I would write down $38,000 that you earned as an actor or a writer or whatever, okay? So all we're looking for is 5 years worth of the net to the best of your ability. If all you can find is gross, just make a note that it's gross at the above 5 years of creative earnings. Just write it's gross and write down, all right, I earned 80,000, 20,000, 10,000, and just write down the gross, and we'll be able to use that to at least get a sense of what's going on, okay? So questions about the earnings piece? Yes.
Mostly I only have I can't say the number.
Irregular lump
yes,
sum income.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I mean with a regular lump sum income is not your sideline work. What I mean with a regular lump sum income is like, oh, every Christmas, Aunt Josephine always tends to give you a check for $500, right? That's what I mean by regular lump sum.
But if I get a project that only pays once.
That is what I need you to work out what the average has been.
Does that go up there then? Or?
Well, is it a project from a sideline job or is it a project from your creative earnings? For you, it's marketing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sideline.
So that's your sideline work. So what I need you to do is I need you to look at what is the average that marketing has been creating for you on a monthly basis. I get that some months you may get $3,000 and some months you may get none.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just want you to look at over 6 months, how much have you earned marketing? Divide that by 6, and that's what it's earning on average right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The reason why this is the least sort of important piece of this is because of what you're bringing up. It's the fact that, well, the fact that I got that $10,000 project last month doesn't mean I'm going to get it next month, right? What we just need to be able to look at is we need to be able to look at what's it doing, what has it been doing for you right now. That's what we need to be able to look at, okay? When I look and I discover that, oh, interesting, tutoring for the SATs actually has been earning me an average of $400 a month, even though I'm always driving to the students and I'm always getting ready for the classes and I feel like I'm doing it all the time, that's important information for me, right? As I then figure out what it is I'm spending. It's just important information.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just want to
that's
ask
okay.
you one more time.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
Okay, let's say election. I worked elections.
Okay.
Never work election normally. It's only $140
Right.
for the whole year, right?
Right.
How do I pay that
If
portion?
you don't intend to do that again right
No.
now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even bother putting it down. Okay?
Even though it was income at
Yeah. And so if it helps you, do you see why? And these are great questions because this is why I want you to do it to the best of your ability, but it's the least important. Because when we get to revenue modeling, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, Stephanie has discovered that she needs $3,000 a month. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this page and we're going to look at, does anything on here right now seem to stand any reasonable possibility of creating that $3,000 a month? Right? If so, how do we perhaps need to focus on it differently than we have been to make it a little bit more stable? Or is really none of this the answer? Right? In which case, isn't that useful information? Might be a little painful, but it's useful information. Right? So when I did this, I had to list 11 sideline jobs, right? And there were sideline jobs I loved. I loved tutoring for the SATs. right? I actually really enjoyed, believe it or not, working at Starbucks. It was fun. It was a fun place to go. But one of the sideline jobs was that I did paralegal work for an attorney, okay? I hated that. Now, why did I hate it? I had a lot of baggage about that. Like, I don't like attorneys. I know that's a huge bias, but you know, a lot of them are mean.
Yeah.
This guy would grunt at you every morning. You could barely even say hello. My mother was an attorney. She was always angry, right? She wanted me to be a lawyer, wanted me to go to law school. When are you going to give up on this acting thing and go to law school, right? So there were a lot of reasons why I hated going to that job. However, I type over 100 words a minute. Because my mother was an attorney and made me work in her office when I was in high school, I had a familiarity with briefs and the structure and how you type things up. And that job actually at the time paid like $30 or $32.50 an hour. So I was avoiding it for all kinds of reasons, right? When I looked at, love the SAT job, love the Starbucks job. However, when push comes to shove, the SAT job is actually paying me about $6 an hour. Once I factor, I got to drive to the students, I got to drive back from the students, I got to prep for the students. So the $24 that seemed good wasn't once I actually figured it out, right? Once I realized that I could go into that attorney and say, what if I will work for you for 25 hours a week, right? I have a track record. You know I'm good at what I do. I will get it done, right? Even if I have to come in late, even if I have to work early. I wasn't answering phones or anything that like needed me to be there absolutely at a specific time. Will you work with me if I have auditions? And he said yes. Right? Now, I'm not saying that's always going to be the answer. And truthfully, it worked for a period of time. And then I booked a job that was going to take me away for 2 weeks. And he couldn't handle it. And that was the end of that relationship. But for a while, that job actually solved a lot of problems in my life. Because how did I feel about that job when I started realizing I can go to one job instead of 11? I have time to go to my acting class at night, and I'm not exhausted and miserable when I go. I have money for the acting class that I really want to go to. And yeah, he's kind of a jerk, but you know what? I come in, I get the work done, and when auditions come up, he lets me go. Started to feel better about the job. It wasn't my end game, but it was a means to an end that I had to look at differently than I was looking at it, okay? So that's the kind of value of figuring out that, oh, I make $150 a week from that job because I've only been willing to go do 5 hours a week there. What if I was willing to do something different, okay? Did you have a question, Javier, about the earnings piece? No? Okay.
Oh, the 5 years creative earnings.
Yes.
What is that?
What?
Oh, is that like the acting? Like
Yeah, exactly. So that would be acting. If you are a multi-hyphenate, you can decide. Like if you're a writer-director, right, it might be useful for you to know.
No, it's simple because I get Disney and Universal all
Great.
stuff.
Exactly. Perfect. So you can look at that. And you also said you're a musician, and so you can decide. Right. Okay. Great. Yeah. Yes, Renee.
What if it's in a field outside of entertainment, but it's still creative, like creative design or something?
So it's totally up to you. Like in other words, how do you see it? Is it an aspect of your career that you intend to pursue, or is it really sideline, right? It doesn't really matter. That is up to you how you want to define it. Yes.
You want to make like you did. You looked into it. You got all these things.
Yes.
And how much does each one bring in? Oh,
Absolutely.
that one.
Exactly. And so, like, when I did this, for me, acting would have been the clear thing that went under creative earnings, whereas the 11 sideline jobs had to go in their own individual lines, right? For some of you, it's acting. For some of you, it's writing, directing. For some of you, it's musician or dancer. We have a circus performer in the other class. Like, right, that would be your creative world.
Okay, now, so this is where my question comes in.
Yeah.
If you look at this, oh yeah, the acting job for Disney that paid X amount, clearly that's the one I want to go for.
Right.
Out of all this stuff.
Right. So that is why we're looking at creative separately from sidelines, because what we're just going to be able to do is we're going to be able to look and say, okay, this is what your acting career has been doing, or this is what your writing and directing career has been doing. It's just information that, yeah, love what my acting career has been doing, or, not so happy with what my acting career has been doing. We all know that can change in an instant, right? But again, what we have to get a grip on is if my expenses end up being $5,000 a month, like I need $60,000 a year, right? And I look, and my acting career has never made more than $22,000 a year, that's important information. I'm not saying that my acting career may not make the $60,000 next year, but it is important information that it isn't right now making it, and it hasn't yet. And that may explain why I'm $50,000 in debt. Or, do you know what I mean? It's just information. Okay, guys? Yes.
But I'm sure it's a huge passion and dream of everyone in here.
Yes.
And when you see numbers like that and it doesn't meet up to your expenses, then, like, what do you do? I mean, obviously cry.
Yeah. But so
you don't want to give it up.
Absolutely.
Or like our parents say, oh, why don't you become a lawyer?
And guys, remember, that will never be my message, because I haven't given up, right? And I will never, trust me. So that will never ever be my message unless it's what you want. It is simply that we have to have a plan. Like, we have to have a plan. So giving up, the fact that mom and dad and every old teacher is like, what are you doing, right? That's their issue and their problem, and something that, we'll talk more about. But what their further problem may be, well, I see that Renee's running up the credit cards, or I see that I have to save her 6 times a year because she can't afford to put gas in the car, or she can't get groceries. That is a valid point. When I did this work, I discovered that I was operating at an average negative of $1,153 a month, okay? So that's a sort of answer to your question. Is that painful? Yeah, to a level, right? But what I will also tell you is it really was one of the most relief-filled moments of my life, because it was truth. And what I could now get was, okay, so now what? What is my plan? Because negative $1,153 a month, the only road that was taking me was back home to mom and dad, or homeless, or any number of other things that didn't involve an acting career, right? There was no way that road was the road to what I wanted. So seeing it, while it can be, it's also extremely empowering, because then you get to figure out, what is my plan, right? If my plan is not quitting, then what is my plan? Because many of us are forced to quit. And whether we acknowledge quitting or not, we have, because we're not in class, we're not going on any auditions, we're thousands and thousands of dollars in debt, we're no longer pursuing our career. It may be a dream, but there's no active pursuit going on. What my goal is to get you, if you want to be, in active pursuit. I can't define when it's going to happen for you any more than I can define when it's going to happen for me. And when it, quote unquote, happens, right, I can't define whether that will be forever. The key is, how do you get yourself into the financial position that you will be in this game for as long as you want to be, okay? So that's why I encourage you guys, get the information. The information, good, bad, whatever, negative $1,153 a month, good, bad, what it clearly was not working. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go on, you guys, just so I can make sure that I get you through this, and then I promise you, like, so long, we have 5 more weeks together. Okay, so once you've done that, we need you to do the loss side, right? The expenses side. And this is the piece, Stephanie, that you raised some questions. So for many of us, this part of the process is going to be a paper process, all right? The only way for you this isn't going to be a paper process is if you truly have been using software already, and your software is already broken down into pretty specific categories. Then doing this work is really just a question of getting the software to spit out the numbers that you need. Most of us, that's not the case right now. And even if you have been doing some sort of tracking, it's been very general, big topics and categories, and not as specific as we need it to be. So the way that for most of us you're going to have to do this work is you're going to go through the list, crossing out the categories that don't exist for you. You're going to print out statements of all of the ways that you spend, and then you're going to start with the first category you did not cross out. So let's say for me, car loan or lease. Maybe I have a lease on my car, or I have a car loan, okay? I don't need to go through 6 months worth of statements looking to see what my average car loan is. I have to look at one statement and see what my car loan is. And then I write down next to car loan or lease, or if I'm doing this on the computer, I type in next to car loan or lease that my car loan is, $222 a month, okay? Then I cross it out on my statement. Wherever I see it on my statement, I cross it out because I've already covered that.
But only in the one statement.
Well, because that's the statement that I looked at, right? Then as I'm going through my other statements, whenever I come across car loan or lease, I can go ahead and cross that out because I know, oh yeah, that's the car loan, $222. Cross it out. I've already got that down, okay? So then I get to gas for the car. That's the kind of category that's tricky. What I recommend that you do is that literally you take a ruler and you go down your statement looking for every time you got gas. Oh, there's one. I went to Unical. How much was it? Write it down on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, it was $33 to fill my tank. Cross it out on the statement. Keep going. Oh, there's another gas for the car. How much was it? Write it down on a piece of paper. Cross it out on my statement. So that I just keep going through 6 months worth of statements, crossing out every time I got gas after I write down that amount on the piece of paper. Then I total up the amounts, write down the total on the piece of paper. Why? Because it's very possible that you missed 1 or 2 or 3, right? That you're going to find later. And you don't then want to have to add up all those numbers again. You want to just be able to say, oh, the total I had was X, and now I need to add these 3. Then divide by 6, because you've looked at 6 months worth of statements, and that number is the number I write down next to gas, next to on my sheet, because that's the average that I spend on gas. And then keep going to the next category. Okay? What will ultimately happen if you keep going through this process is you will have crossed out everything on your statement, right? That's why it's important to cross it out after you write it down. So the easy way I know I'm not done or that I've missed something is I've gone through every category on here and there's still some things that aren't crossed out. So at that point, either I have some expenses that a category name doesn't exist, in which case you need to add that category for yourself, or you missed one or two, right? And then you need to figure out where you missed it, add it in, and correct the average, okay? The other thing that may happen is you've crossed out everything on your statement, but you still have some categories over here that don't have numbers next to them. In that case, what that means is that thing exists in your life, but didn't happen in the last 6 months. So maybe you never got your car repaired in the last 6 months, right? So now you have to do a little bit more homework. It's not going to be perfect, but try to figure out, all right, in 2016, how much did I spend repairing my car? Do a little homework. Go look. Hopefully you sort of file your car repair statements and, did I get tires? How many oil changes did I get? Oh, and I needed to go to the dealership once or to the service guy once for, a $600. Add it all up. And you say, all right, last year I spent $1,200 on things I would call car repair. Now divide it by 12, because you're looking at the whole year, and put that your car repair is $100 a month on average, okay? So this process is not going to be perfect, but I promise you the information we get will be hugely valuable. And use your actual numbers to the best of your ability by going back through the statements. Laura Diane? Yeah.
With the job that I had, I just started in January, so do I still do 6 months of all of this?
So the expenses are not related to the job you have, right? So yes, we need 6 months of your expenses regardless. Yes, maybe now you have a job, so maybe you're driving more, or maybe you had to get some new clothes or whatever, but the expenses are separate. On the earning side, yeah, you don't have an average, so you can just say, I think this job is going to pay me X. Okay?
I have something similar in the worst case scenario, because basically I was in Germany with a total different lifestyle.
Right.
And everything has changed. My expenses. What do I do then?
Yeah. So, there are some of you for who that is true, all right? And so I'm going to say a couple things about it, okay? If that isn't truly true for you, please don't make it true. Please don't pretend it's true so you don't have to do it, right? Because the temptation is there, and I totally get it. It's like, oh, my life is totally changed, so I don't want to do this, right? And it won't work, so I'm not going to do it. I promise you, Stephanie is actually at a bit of a disadvantage. So do the work if you can. If your life is drastically different, what I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to go through, cross out every category that doesn't exist to you, and then go category by category that does exist for you, giving your best estimation of what you think it will be now that you've been here a month, or how long have you been? You've been here 3 months, so you can look at what has happened over 3 months. How much do you fill your car? Right? Do the best that you can. If some of you are getting married, right? So maybe you have been spending a lot for the wedding, and you're sort of like, well, that's not going to happen. You know what? It's useful information to see what has it been, so that then you say, we're not going to be spending that way anymore, but it's good to know that this is what it has been, okay? Or you just moved here, and so you've got a big deposit for the rent and all of that. Well, write what your rent actually is now, right? So if you used to live in a place that was $800 a month, and for the last 6 months it was $800 a month, but now you moved and it's $1,100, write $1,100, right? Because that's what it is now, okay? Pretty clear, guys, on that piece? Okay, yes.
One question. I printed out the bank statement,
Mm-hmm.
but I've changed my bank. I closed my bank account.
Okay.
Last November,
Okay.
So I have the new account from November to February, so I have 4 months, but I don't have previous ones on record because I looked it on online.
Got it. Okay, great. So you're going to do 4 months
Okay.
and divide by 4. Don't divide by 6, right? Because that'll make you, right? So yeah, you do the most that you actually have. Okay,
The one-
Stephanie will probably
the
look
one
at
that I
3.
found was like back in April last year. Would that count?
You could, or just look at the most recent 4 and
Okay.
simply divide by 4. Okay? So I just want to get you guys through this last piece of what is the part of clearing your financial clutter and getting organized for good. And that is that you are going to prepare a personal balance sheet. Okay? And what a personal balance sheet is, and you can look at it in the worksheets. Skip the tax page for now. And on page 8, you'll see it says personal balance sheet. Okay? And all that this is that you are going to make a list of everything you own that has value. Okay? So we're really looking for we're looking for the big things. Like, I wouldn't spend a lot of time right now on if I sold every piece of furniture in my house, right? If I sold grandma's necklace that she gave me. I would really focus on, if you own a home, what is the current value of the home? If you own a car, what's the current Blue Book value of the car? If you have any stocks or bonds or retirement accounts or 401ks, like a real savings account, those kinds of things are what I would put on the asset side. On the liability side, it's everything you owe, and you want to really break that down. Be as specific as possible. So don't just write credit card debt, $32,000. Actually write down each separate credit card that you have and what the amount is that you owe. If you have a few student loans, try and break those down. What is each student loan? If you owe mom $2,500, your brother Chris $600, write it down. It doesn't mean we are going to deal with that right away, but this is really the place to, again, this is a part of that responsible and really being committed to this relationship and to having a healthy relationship. It's about getting honest about what's out there, right, in terms of our debt. Even if mom isn't asking for it, right? If you actually had a conversation where it was a loan, not a gift, you want to write it down. Because those are the kinds of things that are affecting our relationships. And we are going to want to, at some point, come and have an honest conversation and acknowledge the fact that you know it's still out there and you intend to honor it. Okay? So that's the last piece. That by your 4th class, okay? So what that means is that by class 4, I should be able to sit down with Nick, okay? And Nick should be able to tell me, I need $4,000 a month on average. I should be able to look clearly and see, this is how his $4,000 breaks down. Right? I should be able to see, this is how much his rent is. This is how much he's been spending on food. This is how much he's been spending on groceries versus restaurants. This is how much his dues are. I should be able to look and see how it actually breaks down. That he estimates that it's $100 a month for car repair. That he estimates that it's $50 a month for marketing materials. Not because he's spending $50 every single month, but because he gets headshots once every 2 years, and it costs him $2,000 every single time he gets headshots, and he's divided that by 24 to figure out how much he's spending every month, right? He should be able to, by the time we sit down, and don't worry, we'll go over this a few more times, but he should be able to, by class 4, he should be able to say to me, I need $4,000 a month on average, and $800 of that is my acting career, and 3,200 is personal expenses, right? So he should be able to be really clear on what breaks down as personal, what breaks down as business. He should be able to tell me my net worth is this, and it's because they're right, and it's because this is how much I own, and this is how much I owe, and they either cancel each other out, or I own nothing, or whatever, right? He should be able to tell me that. And he might not be ready yet, but he should be okay if I knocked on his door and asked him to produce his financial documents. That's the goal for 4 weeks from now, okay? Now, next week, guys, we will start by talking about some of the systems that are out there for you to use on an ongoing basis. Doing it right, doing the work I'm asking you to do, most of you have to just get down and dirty with a pen and paper, okay? And calculator, yes. But later, what we're going to do is we're going to get you all computerized, whether you're using a spreadsheet or whether you're using software. My biggest win would be if 6 months from now, every single one of you had and was tracking all of this information on a computer, because that will mean that this work I'm asking you to do, you never have to do it again. Laura talked about habits, right? And I want it to be where 5 minutes a day, you spend 5 minutes a day and this is done. Just like, like brushing your teeth, okay? So we'll talk about that next week. Okay, so you guys have your assignments. Target is to have it all done by the 4th session.
Up to page 8.
Yes, basically up to page 8. Don't worry about that tax page that shows you how to sort of organize things. Now, I showed you guys, I printed out for you the weekly progress forms just to show you what they are, right? I emailed them to you with your welcome packet. The weekly progress form is for you, but I highly encourage you to use it, okay? If you want to have an element of accountability, you can email me that weekly progress form by every Tuesday so that I have it before your Wednesday class. The way that you use the weekly progress form is that on Tuesday you would sit down and you would fill out what you've accomplished since the last session. What did you intend to get done but didn't? It's good information, right? Because that then means you've got it written down to go back to. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to get every single thing that we say we're going to get done. But that way you can say, oh yeah, I intended to get through half of my categories, and I got through about a quarter of them, right? Then the challenges and problems you're facing now. Really, what I encourage you to do with that is to record, what do you need my help with? Because that makes sure that we get your questions answered while we're in the class. So when you go and you start doing this piece of the work, where are you stuck? What are you coming up against? Get it down on paper so that we can talk about it. If you write on there, the challenge and problem I'm facing right now is I'm having a huge fight with my mom. That's great if it's helpful for you to sort of know that, right? To be able to look back and say, oh yeah, that's right, I was having. So it's okay, you can use it for that. What I am obviously looking for is the challenges and problems that I can actually help you with so that I keep you moving forward. The last part of this sometimes confuses people. I would just, if I were really using this form, what I would do is at the end of next week, after next week's class, I would go in and I would fill in on the bottom, these are my assignments for next week. Because then, so it wouldn't be for me, it would really be for you. Because then what happens is, after 6 weeks, you've got 5 of these completed sheets that are a guideline for you of what you did, what you didn't do but wanted to, where you were stuck, hopefully you got all of those questions answered, and what your assignments were so that anything you don't get done, it can be an extremely powerful tool for going through this work effectively. Okay, guys? So as you leave, right, again, look around. These are your classmates, with the exception of our Tuesday folks who may pop in from time to time, or you may see them on Tuesday. Right? They were cool too, I promise. Guys, this is who should be sitting around this table 6 weeks from now. Stuff will happen. If you get an audition, or you book a job, or you're sick, shoot us an email. You'll see, right, I write on the form that Laura Diane will be absent or will be late. It's just so that we know you haven't just disappeared, right? There's actually a reason why you're not here. The only failure is in quitting. You keep showing up. I totally am taking a stand for all of you to have everything that you said was important to you to achieve in this 6 weeks. I ask you to take a stand for yourself and also to take a stand for each other. Okay? Thank you so much. I am excited to work with you all, and I will see you next week. I'll hear you on the call tomorrow if you want to be on the call or you have any questions, and I always send out reminders the morning of every Thursday, Q&A. Even if I hang out on the phone by myself, which sometimes I do, I'm there to answer questions for an hour. Okay? Yes, I will stay and answer any questions that you have, but otherwise, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
What is now our homework for next week? Besides, I mean, I know that I'm working on until 4 weeks.
Right.